Hey everyone, I feel like I have so much to update everyone on, and at the same time, nothing interesting has happened. This is, I guess, technically part two of a video that I was trying to film yesterday. Yesterday, I had a self-tanning disaster. That video is part one. I'll link that below if you're interested in hearing what happened to me yesterday. But you'll see that I have a little bit of color on my skin. I'm typically much paler. So I have not had an actual proper like tanning booth tan. I've done my own self-tanning, but I haven't done an actual proper tan probably in 2 years or so. So I'm not even sure I know what to do with my makeup. I'm going to try to keep it a little bit light until I get back into the rhythm of a more tan skin routine with my makeup. But I did want to share just some life notes with you, which I was intending to do yesterday. So let's get into it. Okay, so we've got the headband on and I can start playing around with some makeup. I'm going to go in with a little bit of a darker concealer than normal under my eyes, and then maybe just use powder and do bronzer and keep the look kind of sort of light. I do want to film some videos, but I don't think I want to do like the false lashes and all of that. So the last time that we really talked before the tanning disaster was probably about 3 weeks ago. And I think I was sharing with you all that I had gone into some serious therapy for a frozen shoulder situation. I'll link that video below too, so that you get some background on what that was all about. See, this is so light in comparison to my skin now. Let's see how this works out. Anyway, I have been going to therapy for what's called adhesive capsulitis, which is a freezing of the shoulder joint because it's inflamed. Everything in there is angry and nasty and not happy with me. I have irritated it and overdone it. Long story. Anyway, I needed a lot of therapy. So it started all in December. We're in July now. The injury overall can take up to 3 years to clear up, which is just so daunting to me. I can't even imagine. And of course, anytime something like this happens, it makes me have tremendous empathy for people that are going through lifelong or long-term diseases and so forth and suffering. Always, I have been conscious of that. I have a lot of empathy for people that are struggling with pain day to day. So that was the Milani Conceal and Perfect Longwear Concealer in the color 140 Pure Beige. I'm going to go in with the Pure 4-in-1. I think it's just like a powder foundation. 4-in-1 pressed mineral makeup in golden medium is the color. And I'm using a brush that is designed for buffing powder. So back to the frozen shoulder situation. Long story short, the therapy has helped quite a lot. It has not fixed everything, but I see dramatic improvements. Now, I am going to stop going to therapy because it is really dramatically interfering with my day-to-day life to do so. And I feel like I'm at a point where I understand what I need to do. I understand the assignment. I know what I need to do to keep myself on a trajectory to getting better. And I know that it's going to be still a long road, but I have officially stopped going. It had been like maybe a month of therapy. And I know what I need to do. So I have the exercises down and all of that, and I'm going to continue. By the way, just a quick side note from the last conversation that we had about it, because I think I said in that video that I was upset with myself because the pain started around Christmas time, like December-ish into the holidays. And I mentioned that I had been not eating well and that frozen shoulder is associated. One of the main characteristics of people that have it are people that are diabetic, type 1 or type 2. And I think I was misleading in my comment and suggesting that it was just something I did over the holidays that caused it. Not so. The point I was trying to make is that that sort of injury to your body is long-term. You know, it's a cumulative effect of me over the years just not eating well, and further exacerbated, if you will, by a particularly indulgent holiday season is what I was getting at. By no means was I trying to say that it was a short-term thing that just started because I ate poorly for a few weeks. No, these sorts of things build up over years and years and years of not taking good care of yourself, or at least in some cases, of course, there are other things that are onset by a quick injury or something like that. But in the case of this particular situation, it is something that happened building up over a long time. So anyway, that's the update on the frozen shoulder. Things are getting better with frozen shoulder, and I have more mobility. I have a much wider range of motion. I can even touch the top of my head, which is something that I was unable to do before. I can reach over my shoulder. I can pretend to do a ponytail. If you remember in the last video, that was like a big deal, something that I really wanted to be able to do. So progress is looking good, and I'm hopeful that toward the end of this year, this calendar year, I should be fully free if I continue with the exercises that I started in therapy. So that's what's happening there. By the way, the culprit for yesterday's video, it was this Bali Body Ultra Dark Streak Free Tanning Solution. Do you see what that looks like? That's a little bit of the fluid that's in here that would normally spread out really nicely and you wouldn't see it like that, but that's what it looked like on my skin. It was just bunching up in really horrible ways. And then the tanning mitt is this, which is totally disgusting looking, but you see that it started to disintegrate on me. So, I'm going in with Sunstalker Caramel Cutie Instant Warmth Bronzer from Fenty. And this is a Kayudo stiff brush. So I think you know from being with me on this particular channel that there's a lot of sort of deep thinking happening at this point of my life. 47, kids are growing up and getting really independent. My husband and I are sort of at the height of our careers and maybe thinking about what even the higher next step is there. We feel settled and all of that, but there's all this other stuff also happening. Primarily, our parents are getting older, which is really difficult for us to watch because with that, of course, comes health issues that are inevitable. We're also thinking just about our own mortality and the fact that anything can really happen from this point forward. No one is guaranteed the privilege of growing old. I know that got serious real quick, but that's the kind of stuff that we are talking about on almost a daily basis because it's really important to us to figure out what that means for how we live our best lives, like without overdoing it. We don't want to over manufacture our living experience, but I just want us to just be aware that every day is precious and to give thought to what we think that means for how we live our lives, how we treat each other, how we treat the people around us. All of those really sort of deep questions that you face as you get into the older part of your life, your middle age, the second half of your life, then we'll progress if all goes well and God willing, as the expression goes, into our 50s, 60s, 70s, hopefully beyond, but we're not guaranteed that. So we constantly have that on our minds. And then along with us thinking that is the fact that people in our circles that we grew up with, I didn't grow up with my husband, but, in his circle and then in my circle, we are learning that they are facing serious illness. They're facing cancer. They're facing other, just tragic health situations that are really difficult for them. This bronzer looks ridiculous. What is wrong with me and my bronzer situation? I cannot get my bronzer situation right, but I'm going to pull my bronzer in through my eye here as part of my look. Anyway, and we are getting news of like our peers from school passing away young, and leaving families behind and all of that. When you're younger, it's more like one-off, but at this age, it seems like we're hearing about it more and more, and it's just really bothersome and alarming to us because it does what? I mean, not only do we mourn the death of those people and wonder how it affects everyone around them and all of those things, but of course, it makes your own mortality seem more real and closer also. So most recently, I learned of the passing of a woman that I went to high school with. It just hit me really hard. Here is someone that I had come of age with. I knew her from the age of about 14 to 18. We went our separate ways for college and all of that. But during that 14 to 18-year-old time period, I would say we were decently close. We were all part of the same intimate circle and shared a lot of our lives with each other. We had big dreams at the time. From 14 to about 18 years old, if you're an athlete, you're in peak physical form. You're like in the best physical form you might be for the rest of your life. Of course, there's exceptions to that and people get in shape later and all of that. But we were all on athletic teams in high school. We were all young and vibrant and full of life and full of big dreams and had no idea what the future held for us, but we had high hopes for it and big thoughts about what things could and should be like, We lived a very ideal life on a bucolic school campus, right? So it was pretty isolated that way. We didn't have the weight of the world on us. I left New York. I'm not sure if I've shared this in the past, but I left New York for high school. So spent high school in a much more, a town with rolling hills that was pretty isolated, pretty safe. So we had each other and we had our dreams and we had blue skies and athletic teams and ice cream nights and pizza nights, and we studied together. And it was just this tight little friendship circle. I never in a million years imagined any of them growing old. I never imagined life having its way with any of those people. We were young and wild and free, as the song goes. It's not a Bryan Adams song. We were young and wild and free. All of that. And then, you go to college and things start to happen in college. You start to have experiences that are outside of the innocent norm of maybe middle and high school. And then that varies for people. Of course, some people had interesting experiences in middle and high school, but for the vast majority of us, it was college really when hearts started to break. We had to start worrying about adult types of things. We had to start planning for our post-college adult life where we actually had responsibilities and such. It was just a very different world in college. And you were, because of whatever studies you had, tackling the issues of the world, at least intellectually, mentally, in ways that you didn't have to in a middle or high school environment, academic environment, home environment, whatever. I'm going to use the Glam palette from Natasha Denona. I want a pretty simple look today. And I'm going to go into this blend color here, and then maybe this darker color to deepen up the eye look. Anyway, where I'm going with this is I am the kind of person, I may have mentioned this before, I remember people always, I think of people as staying at the age that I met them. So, or that I remember them. For example, my siblings, my sisters, my earliest memories are maybe in like the 4 to 5 year old range. So I'll always see my baby sister as my baby sister. She'll always be 1 or 2 or 3 in my mind, no matter how old she gets. Like that spirit of when I met her is still how I will always remember her. She's still alive. And the same thing with my older sister. If you think about being 5 years old, she was 8. So I always remember her as that young person, maybe through like our middle school years. And even though she turned 50 this year, I cannot in my mind accept that she's 50 years old. Like she will, to me, always be like the younger version of my older sister. Same thing with my little sister. She'll always be the younger version of herself in my mind. So it's the same thing with my friends. For example, the women that I met in high school who are now all grown women, my age, they've got their own careers, families, life has had its way with them. You know what I mean? Life has tossed them around. They've been married. They've been divorced. They've had kids. They've had successes. They've had death in their families. They have faced disease, all sorts of things. But I always see them as 13 or 14 years old or 15, whenever it was that I met them in our high school days. That spirit of that person that I met at that age is who I see now when I look at them. Even though there are wrinkles on their face, even though they have turned gray, some have lost weight, some have gained weight. They've been, like I said, through so many ups and downs in life. To me, they will always be the age that I met them. So where I'm going with this is this woman that I'm talking about, in my mind, will always be the age that I met her. We lost touch after high school. She went away to another college. I went on my own way, had my own life to lead and all of that. And I admit I didn't think of her often, except when I thought back about high school. I remembered her in the landscape, if you will, of my high school life. Like she always had a place there, if you will. Anyway, last week I get an email from our alumni association announcing her passing. And I'm going to choke up. It did something to me. And I thought to myself, how could this woman who was so full of life, so apparently healthy as far as I knew, how could there be an announcement about her passing? How is this possible? What happened? And it's like that space between complete nosiness and respect that I was having a hard time living in because I wanted to know. What happened? The announcement only said she passed unexpectedly in her home. And she's survived by 4 children and her husband. So my mind, of course, immediately goes to those people and wondering how they are coping and dealing. And I can't, can only imagine what the news of that was like, to learn that your wife or mom or whatever had passed away unexpectedly. Like, how do you even process that? And I want to know why. What happened? And of course, like I said before, it brings into sharp focus your own mortality. Like, here's one of our own. Here's one of, you've seen the movie Goonies. Here's one of my Goonie squad friends that isn't here anymore. She's not here. She ceases to exist. Like, how do you process that? And then why? For what reason? I can't blame it on old age. I, don't know if she had some illness or something that we're not aware of. I don't know. No one knows. On top of that, this woman, I think I might have mentioned, she was an athlete. She was healthy from everything everyone could tell. She was healthy. So my mind went in a lot of different directions about what might have happened. And I dare not do that because I feel like it's inappropriate to make guesses. But I'm also that person that I won't stop thinking about it for a long time. And I want to know, I need closure on something like that. And I know that that is really selfish because it's not about me. The announcement was just, it had a profound effect on me. I have not stopped thinking about it. And I reached out to some of my other friends from the same circle, the same group of people that sort of ran together in high school. And all we could drum up to say was, that is so sad. And it is so sad. But it's also deeply moving and profound in ways that you're just not ready for. My mind, of course, goes to, that could have been any one of us. And what does, of course, that mean for the life that we think we're living right now? Are we doing it right? Are we doing it right? Are we doing things right? Do we know if we're doing things right? I don't know. Have you had a moment like that yourself where, someone passes or some life tragedy happens and it just makes you sort of rethink everything? I was having that kind of a moment. So may she rest in peace. She's a beautiful woman. And my heart aches for her family, for everyone. And it also aches for all of us that are left behind and wondering, what does that mean for our existence if we don't know when our time is? That's kind of what this comes down to. That she passed so early in what seemed like to the outside world to be such a healthy state. What does that mean for the rest of us and how we are to live our lives? And it's kind of one of those questions that we can only try to answer to the best of our ability because we just never really know. So I did a little bit of, maybe a lot of bit. I went a little overboard with the eyeliner. This is my Natasha Denona gel eyeliner, which I love. I used a brush that was maybe a little bit too thick. Let's see here. Can you see? Maybe a little bit too thick and ended up getting a little out of hand, but that's what we're going to go with right now. And I'm not doing false lashes today. I'm not going to do false lashes. So that's the thing about my high school colleague. It's been deep on my mind. I don't think there will be an invitation to a funeral. I don't know. I don't know all the circumstances. Part of what really also bothered me is that I don't go on Facebook a lot. I've gotten off of Facebook. I think I've shared why. To me, Facebook, if you love it, great. But for me, I was on it quite a while when it was first hot, back in the, 2009, 10 time period. And then it just started to get really super crowded. I think I just broke my pencil. It started to get really super crowded. At first, it started off with just, pictures of your family, updates, little funny things, little funny sayings and memes. And then all of a sudden, it got super serious with lots of politics and life problems and solving all the world's issues and hearing about everyone's political points of view, which it's not how I want to spend my personal time. Everyone's entitled to think whatever they want. I, don't always want to share that out publicly. I don't want to know your religious views. I don't want to know your political views. I don't want to know about your money issues. I just don't. Not on social media. If we're friends, of course I want to know all that. But on social media, I like to keep social media light and bright and happy, despite me telling you about my death and mortality reflections in this video. For the most part, I come to social media to get away. So why am I telling you all this? Because on Facebook, I don't know, things just got super serious and people would argue their politics. And I'm like, I have never known anyone to change their mind from an argument. So I'm going to exit stage left, and I stopped using Facebook. But the reason that I'm bringing up Facebook is because I popped onto our alumni page to see what announcement had been made about this person that I'm telling you about. And there was an announcement on my class page about her passing. It had been maybe 3 or 4 days, and only one person had responded. And the response was something like, "Thanks for letting me know, I'll always remember her," or something like that. And I remember again having a second wave of like profound sadness, deep thought, existential crisis over this, as I thought, my goodness, here's someone who was someone's mom, someone's wife, contributed, in the ways that she knew how to society and all of that. And that's it. Like, that's it. You get one comment on your high school page and everybody moves on with their life. Just things like that give you pause about all that you spend your time doing and giving energy to, because like in the end, it doesn't really matter. Now that's very pessimistic and morbid, and I know that it mattered to a lot of people, even though we didn't see it on that particular page. But you get what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying. You can't tell me that you haven't thought about this yourself, especially if you are in my age group or close to it. These things become really real, and you start to think about, what impact do I leave on the world? What am I doing that really matters to others? All of those kinds of questions that they really don't have answers, if you will. You just have to do the best that you can and have belief and faith and all of those sorts of things. We can do like the philosophical breakdown of all of that in another video, but I think I'm just saying that it just struck me how quickly these things happen, how short life is. Yet again, I feel like I'm constantly being reminded lately of how short life is, and just wondering, like, what does it all mean? In the end, what does it all mean? And if we don't think that it has a lot of meaning, how do we make it mean more? Is that what we should be doing? Should we be trying to make things mean more, or should we be trying to live in the moment and just enjoying things for what they are and stop trying to assign meaning? I don't know what the right way to live is. I don't know. All these years later, have no wisdom about that, other than make sure you're a good person and you treat people well. That much I feel really confident about. But I don't know. If you have thoughts, like, what are your life maxims? I should probably turn the lights on because I look like I'm in a horror movie with this lighting. Hang on a second. There, we've got better lighting now. I had really good lighting when I started. The sun was overhead, but it's going in a different direction at this point. So anyway, friends, that's been on my mind. I also wanted to talk, I'm going to switch gears, but I wanted to talk about my obsession with Stranger Things, the TV show. Do you watch it? Have you been watching it? We're on season 4. Volume 2 is about to come out of season 4 on July 1. And I am absolutely obsessed with this show. My friend Joss at Joss's Fragrance Mixology turned me on to the show. I had heard people obsessing about the Stranger Things thing, and I was like, I don't know what these folks are talking about. I'm tapping out. Well, I'm tapping in. This show has got a grip on me. My husband and I started with watching season 1 about a month ago, and we binge watched all the way to season 4, and we're like on the edge of our seats waiting for the end of season 4. They broke it into 2 parts, a volume 1 and a volume 2. So that was the Scott Barnes Pumped Up Mascara. I'm going to do blush with MAC Glow Play Blush, and the color is Cheer Up, Cheer Up. So if you're not familiar with Stranger Things, pretty much it's like E.T., the movie, the 80s movie of the alien, meets X-Files. The reason I say that is because the show features this group of very young friends who you fall in love with right away. And they have an obsession with a fantasy game, like a Dungeons and Dragons kind of a thing. Now, there's entire theories about the show. There's boards on Reddit about this. There's groups on Facebook about Stranger Things. So if you want to know a lot about it, you can go look at those. I didn't get that deep into it. I just know that I fell in love with the cast. I fell in love with the kids on the show. They are simply adorable little children. But the star of Stranger Things, okay, it's set in a town called Hawkins out in the Midwest. And the idea of the show is that there is something called the upside down, which is like an alternate reality that they can get caught in. And in the upside down are evil things, monsters, forces, spirits, etc. I'll just leave it at that because I don't want to ruin too much if you haven't watched it. But the star of the show is this little girl whose character is called 11, the number 11. She has it tattooed on the inside of her arm. And you come to know that she has escaped from a research laboratory that was doing experiments on her and people like her because she has special powers, supernatural powers, where with her mind, she can push and shove things and make things break and explode. Look at my hands. This is from Disaster Self-Tan yesterday. Okay, I haven't gotten over that yet. So 11 escapes from that facility where she's being treated like a lab rat, basically. And lots of experiments are being done on her supernatural force. And the whole show then starts to revolve around her powers, but also the other characters have really important roles and things happening to them. One of the little crew gets sucked up into the upside down by these things, this other force, and 11 recognizes the kid is stuck in the upside down. And thus the story begins of the little crew of kids trying to get their friend Will out of the upside down. Anyway, Winona Ryder is in it. The whole cast is just absolutely phenomenal. You get sucked in, you come to love them. And this person here just fell head over heels for the little girl, 11. She is played by the actress Millie Bobby Brown. That's her name. And that actress started, I think, the role at the age of, was she 10? No, or 12 or something like that? Because I think they've been filming for 4 or 5 years. Somewhere in that range. She's now 18. I've come to learn that this actress, and the seasons follow the cast. So the cast stays intact and you see them grow up through the seasons to the most recent season, season 4, where they're in high school. And it's fascinating to watch them grow. Of course, that makes me think about our kids growing and how quickly that happens, how elusive time is and how things just go so quickly. Because you watch them age, and so it touches my heart to watch these little kids age. Their relationships are solid with each other. The way that they care about each other and look out for each other and go on these adventures together is just so endearing. But hands down, that 11 steals my heart. She starts off, like I said, she escapes and she's got this shaven head. So really what you fall in love with is this really pure, beautiful little face of this girl with these big brown saucer eyes that just draw you in, and you feel I felt so much for her as you learn about her life story and what she went through. The way that she has been treated, the dramas that she's had to sustain, that she hasn't had any family, all of this stuff. And all I could think was, I want to adopt this little girl. The entire time that I'm watching season 1, 2, 3, even into season 4, even though she by season 4 had found a family setting, I wanted to adopt her and I wanted to show her motherly love. I mean, I just fell in love with this character. It's a character on a show, but to me, she was so real. And there's traumas that she faces on the show where she breaks down crying. And I broke down crying on my end as a viewer and just was like, my soul was crushed when 11 was crushed. And my soul was elated when 11 was elated. I tell you guys, Stranger Things, if you're not into it, is the show to watch. There are other characters on the show that you fall in love with. The chief of police is named Hopper. That's his last name. And that's what everyone calls him. He ends up sort of adopting 11, and they develop this hold on, let me do this. So Hopper, the chief of police, ends up adopting 11, and they develop this really adorable, endearing relationship. I'm telling you, if you have not gotten into Stranger Things, it's on Netflix, and the end of season 4 is starting on July 1. So you have time to binge watch seasons 1, 2, 3, and the first part of season 4. What do we think about this look? I want it to be glam but natural. Did I achieve that? What do y'all think? I might need a little bit more bronzer, and I think I'm just going to leave it at that. But that has been on my mind. 11 has been on my mind. I think about 11 every day. Like, she's a real character. I'm telling you, y'all, I have problems, and you need to send help to me. But I cannot wait to see what happens with her character in season 4, volume 2. Now, mind you, my obsession with Stranger Things was on the heel of being completely obsessed for a couple of weeks with dab dabka or dabki dancing. It's this Middle Eastern dance that's a wedding dance, or at least those are the videos that I've seen. I'll insert a little bit of video action right here where I just watched and watched and watched those videos like on end, day after day, video after video, because I just love like the energy of that. So then I started watching Stranger Things and got completely obsessed with that. And it's weeks later, you guys, like we've gone through all the series. I am still obsessed and watching interview after interview, behind the scenes footage after behind the scenes footage of Stranger Things with a certain eye on 11. The whole cast is just adorable, and I love learning about all of them. Even the adults in the cast are just wonderful. But there's something about that girl. Like, I feel like my soul is tethered to her or something. It makes absolutely no sense. I will never meet her, never know who she is. In the meantime, in my fantasy mind, this is someone I wanted to adopt. The character in the show, and then come to learn that the young lady in real life is this go-getter entrepreneur. She owns Florence by Mills, the makeup line. Didn't know that. So of course now I've become obsessed with the makeup line again. And I'm following her career. Like, I'm totally invested in her becoming, or remaining rather, this young, successful actress, which makes no sense. I'll never meet this person. So that's what I wanted to share with you. My tanning drama, my broken heart over my peer passing away before her time, and no explanation as to why, and my obsession with 11 from Stranger Things, and the ongoing recovery of my frozen shoulder. I have not forgotten about the Amazon video that I promised. I am putting that together. The video will be the items from Amazon that I love the most, and that'll be coming up soon. Thanks so much for hanging out with me and listening to my ramblings, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, my friends.